country. This trend has changed, though, as since 1965, beef consumption has dropped about 20 pounds per person. In the same time, chicken consumption has grown nearly 100 times its former size, and now poultry has taken beef's place as America's food of choice. Because of these shifts, chickens and other birds have become a vital part of America's economy and diet. According to the Poultry Federation, Georgia is the #1 producer of chickens in North America. And furthermore, we produce 1 million chickens, broilers, each year. And as citizens of the top producer of the US, it's very important for us to understand this industry. Now, many institutions track information about these birds in America's food industry. According to the USDA, for example, consumption of poultry has gone up as a whole has gone up 32 pounds per person per year from 1970 to 1996. And according to the American Egg Board, there are over 200 million chickens in America used solely for laying eggs, and each of these produces 300 eggs per year. Now, I'm going to share with you the role birds play in our food industry and describe how they are treated while they fill that role. But before we go on, I should probably explain a few terms used in the industry. The following are the types of chickens that I'm going to be talking about. First of all, you have breeders, which are chickens used exclusively for reproduction. They give birth or sire other types of chickens used in the industry. Next, you have broilers, which I mentioned earlier, which are chickens bred to be eaten. These are the chickens that you would see at KFC or Einstein's or any other place that serves chicken, used for breast meat, wings, chicken fingers, anything like that. And finally, you have egg layers, which are obviously used to lay unfertilized eggs. They're therefore all female. Now let's try to grasp the scope of this industry. According to the National Chicken Council, which is a broiler chicken association used in DC that lobbies for their benefit, there are nearly 200 slaughterhouses and evisceration plants in America which directly employ and indirectly employ a total of almost 500,000 people. The wholesale value of this industry is almost $500 billion. It's a lot of money and a lot of people counting on this industry. And broiler sales have gone up, used to be only $12 billion in the 90s. So 12 billion to 50 billion, it's a huge increase in just a couple of decades. Also, in the 90s, the US controlled 30% of world trade. This has gone down a little bit, but America's still one of the strongest members of the poultry trade in the world. And this is all thanks to a modern production system that was put into action in Georgia and Arkansas over the past 100 years. This system is so efficient that for every 2 pounds of feed that you put into taking care of the birds, you get almost a pound of chicken. This is much more efficient than the hog industry, the beef industry, anything like that. Furthermore, chickens reach market weight in less than 50 days from hatching to slaughter. Now, a century ago, because of all this, steak and lobster were actually less expensive than chicken. Now, chicken is the thought of chicken being less expensive than lobster is absurd, or more expensive, I should say. Sorry. But broilers aren't the only efficient aspect of the chicken industry. According to the United Egg Producers, an astounding 250 eggs are produced per person per year. Creating such a productive system has meant that some sacrifices had to be made by the chickens, not by the people. Meeting the market demand for poultry and eggs has resulted in what some people view as unpleasant pheasant living conditions. Because chickens and egg consumption is on the rise, more and more individual birds are being put into smaller spaces. Nearly 33 billion chickens are slaughtered every year globally. And this means that, let's say for egg layers, you're going to shove hundreds of thousands of birds in every chicken house in a space that's smaller than this sheet of paper per chicken. 90% of all chickens in the US are kept in a space smaller than that. Now, there have been some laws put in place to make living conditions better, but they're generally very ambiguous and vague, saying things like They just need to have enough room to extend their arms or their limbs. And it's kind of saying something that that's something that has to be put into law, that that a bird can stretch out its wings. Now, broilers are kept in similar conditions, and there are lots of horrible things that happen to chickens over their lives, but I'm not going to go too much into that, other than perhaps you should know that they often have their beaks removed to avoid pecking each other. Now, since this is a multi-million-dollar industry that feeds into grocery stores, restaurants, and other businesses, many people have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. However, we've seen that many of these birds are kept in such conditions that obviously some people are going to take action. And millions of dollars are spent by both sides, the industry and the activists, each year in legal confrontations over the treatment of the chickens. This has resulted only in ambiguous regulatory laws across multiple states that are hard to enforce. Now, over the course of my speech, I hope I've given you a fairly comprehensive view of conditions that lead, do I just stop? I'm like right at the end. Okay. That lead many people to seek reform. From the 30s to today, chicken consumption has gone up from less than 1 pound per person per year to over 80 pounds. Think about that. That's pretty extreme. In that same span of time, they've also come to be subject to the conditions most foul. Now, these two facts are coming to a head as activists confront businessmen. But the real question is, who will win this game of chicken?